Okay, this is Tokyo Road Race on the PlayStation 2, otherwise known as Battle Gear 2 in Japan and Side by Side, I think in the US or maybe Japan as well. The games that I'm looking at here are what I've now learned are called touge games, which are Japanese hillside mountain drifting games. And as I mentioned on the previous videos, I really got into these probably around 2004 when I played the Initial D arcade game at the Scarborough Seafront, and I really enjoyed the game, and well, I was hooked really on this. I just loved the idea of it, and I got into the comics and the mangas because of that. But I was looking for something in the home and I couldn't really find anything similar, and later on when I bought a PlayStation 2 I came across, really just by accident, a few games that looked a little bit like Initial D, and this was the first one. And to look at the box art, it looks, well, it looks cheap, it looks really bad, but the game's fantastic. It's an arcade game called Battle Gear 2, and it's more or less just a home version of that. There are, well, this is the embarrassing thing. For years I thought there were 4 tracks. I never bothered to actually save the game. But if you get first on the first 4 tracks, you get another 6. So, might have helped if I actually read the manual, or even looked on the back of the box, which tells you. But here we go. And the sensation of speed on this is, I think, the best out of the 3 that I've got. I'll not mention the other games yet, just to keep a bit of surprise, but what I've done is I've started with this as perhaps the most arcadey one, and then I'll end on the one which is the most, I wouldn't say simulation based, but the one that you've got to put a lot of time and effort and build up your car, almost a bit like, almost like Gran Turismo, but not like Gran Turismo, if that makes sense. I'll try a different camera view. I'm playing this game at the moment in 50Hz, mainly because the camera that I've got, because it's a UK camera, only works at PAL, so it's 25 frames a second and you can't switch it to 30, so if you run it at 60Hz, or a game rather, it blurs a little bit, and I noticed that with a few games that I've done in the past at 60Hz, so the real game runs even quicker than this, and just looking at the frame rate, it doesn't drop a frame. It's silky and smooth. And what I'll do at the end of this video is just put a bit of bonus footage to show how this runs at 60Hz in slightly blurrer vision. This game really is hard. Oh! Okay, so I'll try a slightly easier track. I've got this on normal difficulty. The difficulty is quite odd, because if you put it on easy it's a little bit too easy, but if you put it on normal it's a little bit too hard. There is a hard mode and an extra hard mode, but I think this might explain why I never actually saw the other tracks in the game, because they've kept the same difficulty as the arcade game, which is designed to swallow money. So I'm racing at the moment with a Supra, a Toyota Supra, so this is a Class A car. I tend to find that the Class A cars don't race very well on some of the harder tracks. So the one you saw in the previous game, you'll see this again and again on different tracks. Sorry, what am I talking about? Different games. Concentrating, driving, talking, waffling. It's too hard. But yeah, I think that previous track is the Akina track from Initial D, which is nice in a way, because I think that this game is as close as you'll get to the Initial D arcade game without actually playing it. Sadly, it never came out in this country. There is a version on the PSP as well, but sadly that never came out either, although it did get a US release, which is really quite surprising, because Initial D, well, it came out as manga, and then, as I said in the Initial D video, the game video, that Tokyo Pop just stopped publishing it for some reason, and it seemed to just dry up in the UK, which is a bit of a shame. We never got the anime either. But fortunately, the PSP, from what I understand, is not region locked, so that might be one to pick up. But don't grab it before I grab it off eBay. No. I've actually had a look, they've only got one copy on at the moment. It's not cheap. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about this. If you like your touge drifting games, this really is up your street. The handling feels just about right. It's not as in depth as Initial D, the arcade game, and it's certainly not as in depth, and it doesn't really have the longevity of, I nearly said it, the other game, but I'm going to look at later in the week, particularly the one at the end. But I think if you are looking for something along the line of Sega Rally, that kind of game, or Ridge Racer, where you really just got a few tracks and you've just got to master them, then this is a good game for that. Yay, got first. I don't think I'll get another track though. I might do. We'll see. I wouldn't pay a lot for this game, but you could probably pick it up in a bargain bin. I think I paid about £5 for this, and this is probably about 5 years ago. So the good thing here is that we've now got an extra track that's open, so this is track 6. It looks very familiar, and I think this might be a track that's in the next game that I'll play later in the week, probably tomorrow. It's nice in a way that you get the familiarity of different games having the same tracks, and I think this is probably due to them being based on real tracks in Japan, but it does make it slightly limited after you've played a few of the games and you think, oh yeah, this is the track. But I suppose it's a bit like games like Gran Turismo and maybe even Sega GT, where you're racing on familiar tracks, although I'm not actually sure if Sega GT did use real tracks, but you know what I mean. You get these famous ones that get recycled again and again, and different racing games have their own take on them. This is more of your uphill style racing, so usually on these kind of games, the touge games, I've got to keep saying that word because I now know what the genre is actually called, and now that I know what it's called, I can type it into Google and say, show me more games like this, and sadly there aren't really any more in the UK. But anyway, usually these games have got an uphill section and a downhill section, and the uphill ones tend to be a bit more of a power slog, whereas the downhill ones really, as I said in the Kodar video, are really just about not hitting the sides, and it's not really about acceleration, it's more about braking, whereas this is about really drifting and timing, you really where you put the power in. It's a lot of fun. Oh crap. I'm not so sure about the AI on this. You can generally just drive past cars. I don't think they really go for you. Oh, I think for these narrower tracks, I tend to prefer the Class 2 cars. So these are the tracks that really need, really almost like a front wheel drive car as opposed to a rear wheel one. As strange as that seems, the drifting's nice, but you've got to control it, and if you use ones like the NSX, they tend to hit every corner, which is no good, particularly on this, because you lose all your speed. And I mean, as you can see by just how narrow these tracks are, it's not exactly easy. It's nice to see the other cars actually slowing down. It's really just a good example of how you, I suppose, you follow the other car in a way. It's almost like having the racing line. Oh, this fogging effect is quite nice. for as much as I've said that I like the smoothness of this game, visually it's not that detailed. The textures are a little bit muddy, and you've got the horrible aliasing that you get with some of the earlier PlayStation 2 games. But on the whole, I think it really does the job. It's all about speed and the way that the game feels. So I think if you had a choppy or inconsistent frame rate, I think it would ruin it. And I think this was the problem with Sega Rally 2 on the Dreamcast, that the frame rate was just up and down, and it really spoilt it. Because the first one on the Saturn... Ah, crap. Fourth, that's not good. Yeah, the first one on the Saturn was just such an amazing game for that console, and it really set a good benchmark for it. Right, okay, I think that's enough waffling for me, so hopefully you've had an idea of how the game plays, and my opinion is it plays really well. It's a budget game, really. I know it's based on an arcade game, and I know it's got all these licensed cars, but I think at the end of the day it's nice to just stick on if you want something that isn't too involving, whereas the later ones, as I've mentioned many times in this video, are a lot more involving, so hopefully you'll see them in the next couple of days. So thank you very much for watching. Okay, this is some bonus footage just to show what this game looks like at 60 Hz. Okay, so this is the game running at 60 Hz, which is how it's supposed to run as an arcade game and as a Japanese original. As you can see here, it's running a lot faster than the 50 Hz PAL default, and it's just the smoothness that really does it. It's smooth at 50 Hz, but this is just like butter. You really get a sense of speed from this. It does make it a little bit harder though to stay on the track, although I'm racing as a Supra now, which is a Class A car, and I'm racing on a fairly difficult track. I'm not sure how this video will come out, because I tend to find that recording at 60 Hz tends to give an effect almost like the 360, where you get the blurring on the side when you turn the camera around, and I know that's intentional on the 360, but not really on a PS2 game. I wonder if I'll actually overtake this guy. Oh crap. If only I could drive like this in real life. Oh arse. Right, I think I'll leave it there. Thanks again for watching.